Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Collin Whitchurch, joined today by Sean Zerillo and Derek Carty. We are looking at Game 5 between the Detroit Tigers and Seattle Mariners tonight in the ALDS. The winner will advance to the ALCS to play the Toronto Blue Jays. It is Tarik Skubal on the mound against George Kirby. The Tigers are road favorites, as you might expect, given Tarik Skubal, the best pitcher on the planet, or 1B to Paul Skeens' 1A maybe, on the mound against Kirby. Total of a hilarious 5.5 today. This is not Tarik Skubal's first foray with winner-take-all baseball. You might recall he started Game 5 of the ALDS last year in Tigers Guardians. Came out on the losing end of that. I don't know if you guys remember super well. He's cruising into the, I believe, 5th or 6th inning, leading 1-0, and loaded the bases on a trio of singles. Load the bases for Jose Ramirez, hit Jose Ramirez to tie the game 1-1, and then Lane Thomas hit a grand slam to basically end the Tigers' playoff hopes. Do you remember, Sean, by the way, just a quick little trivia, do you remember who started that game for Cleveland?
Matt Boyd?
Yes, Matthew Boyd, who came through for the Cubs last night. Just Mr. Playoff facing elimination starter, apparently. But we have tonight's game, again, Mariners-Tigers. Sean, I will go to you first with your pick for Tigers-Mariners tonight.
Yeah, so one of the things I love about playoffs in general, you get oftentimes same matchup or same pitchers, same park, different games in the series, so you can compare the lines from one game to the next. Now, in Game 2 against Luis Castillo, I made the Tigers -120 favorites. They were -150. Best available odds -152. At close, -150. The Mariners were +130. With George Kirby, and George Kirby is a better pitcher than Luis Castillo, undoubtedly. Luis Castillo, better home splits. Kirby, pretty neutral home road splits. So Castillo is a better pitcher at home than he is on the road, but still Kirby's the better arm. With Kirby, instead of Castillo, I'd make the Mariners +105 instead of +120. Now, there are other people on Twitter I see putting projections out there. I saw somebody, and I compared their projections. I saw somebody have a -142 for the Tigers in Game 2 against Castillo, and they put up -147 for Game 5. That's wrong. You can't do that. I saw somebody else who puts out picks, did not bet the Tigers in Game 1 or Game 2 against Castillo, bet the Tigers in Game 5 at -130 and said they had a 2.5% edge on it. That's wrong. I'm sorry. There's no way in the world that you could make the Tigers whatever they were in Game 2 and not adjust downward for Kirby. Kirby's a better pitcher, and he's also going to be piggybacking with Castillo here. So that's just wrong directionally. You're betting the side that you want to bet, and you're making up a number. Now, I have Mariners futures. There's no reason for me to bet the Mariners here. I could just be rooting on these futures at huge numbers. I make the Mariners, as I said, around +105 to +103 in this game. It'd be +105 if Kirby was just starting by himself. I get it to +103 with Castillo factoring in and potentially turning over the lineup once or twice in the middle of the game. I doubt Kirby, and we'll get into this with Derek's props. I'm curious to see where Derek would put Kirby's usage, because I know he doesn't necessarily project outs, but pitch count, concerned about usage, and how many batters he thinks he faces, because to me, it's 18. I don't think they let him see Kerry Carpenter a third time. Maybe they do. Nobody on base. If he's rolling and they have a lead, sure. If it's tied, if they're up 1 like they were in the last game, I'm not sure they let him see Carpenter a third time, because that's where he ran into trouble in the last game. The only problem is Castillo's never pitched out of the bullpen, and neither is George Kirby. So yes, they are both available tonight. Castillo's never had a relief appearance in his career, in over 300 career starts. I'm not sure if he's had one in the postseason. I would assume not. Same with Kirby. I would assume neither has had one in the postseason, but across like 300, 50, 400 regular season starts combined between the two guys, nobody's ever pitched out of the bullpen. So that is the one concern. I just don't think Kirby stays in to face Carpenter a third time. So the under outs for Kirby opened at 16.5 -140 to the under last night. By the time I went to bet it, it was 15.5 -140, and it had been taken down at other books. Today it's 14.5 plus money. That's on the borderline right there. 16.5 easy under, 15.5 easy under, 14.5 probably on the nose. So Kirby's usage, I think, has been accurately calculated. Skubal's probably not going to come out, until his arm's falling off. Now, his strikeout prop went from 8.5 over -130 to 8.5 over like -150 to -160 now. I'm going to wait like you would with the Super Bowl, in an island game. I'm going to wait as close to first pitch as possible to try to bet Skubal under 9.5 strikeouts and hope we get -130, -125. I want as much public money as possible to pile in on George Kirby today, to pile in on Tarek Skubal today, and then look to take the under closer to close at 9.5 on the strikeout prop. It's just too high. Action Labs makes it 8.2. Even in an elimination game where he might throw 8 innings, it's too high for any pitcher on the planet, even in this park. So Skubal under 9.5 Ks at, you can call it -140 or better. We're going to wait for the best available price. And then the Mariners, +125, I took the other day. I think they're +120 best available now, down to about +112 is where I'm comfortable with that bet too. Hedging is for gardeners. We're not hedging. We're not hedging on the futures. We're doubling down, if anything. It is not a spot where I was like, hey, I'm ready to bet the Mariners. Give me it's the price and the price adjustment relative to game 1 or relative to game 2, and with the fact that Kirby and Castillo could potentially piggyback here. So, I don't need to go into the other specifics of the matchup. We've laid them out over the past week plus, but I do think the price adjustments are interesting. And if you're telling me that, Skubal should be a bigger favorite in game 5 than he was in game 2, you're flat wrong and your model's wrong.
Yeah. I love this. I love that. I mean, it would not be payoff pitch if we weren't looking at a winner-take-all playoff game and finding ways to fade the best or second best pitcher on the planet. But everything that you said makes sense there. We've bet a lot of outs, strikeouts, pitcher props so far this postseason. By the way, you mentioned the Skubal prop. As of this recording right now, best price on the under 9.5 is -148 at DraftKings. Like you said, Sean, trying to look for it to get closer to -140.
Yeah,
if not below that before we bet that. I'll bring in you, Derek. We were talking right before recording. It seems like every time that you and I are on Payoff Pitch together, Tarek Skubal's starting, and also we are fading him more often than not. Sean is fading him here today, just in the sense of the strikeout market, betting the Mariners, riding with our Mariners tickets. What could possibly go wrong for us here? Betting on the Seattle Mariners and the rich playoff history, but we trust the numbers. I'm completely with you there. But like I said, we've bet a lot of strikeout props and a lot of outs props. What Sean and I haven't really done that much is bet earned runs. And you're not fading Skubal today, but you're looking at the other side here. You're looking at George Kirby.
Yeah, I'm looking at George Kirby under 1.5 earned runs, +105 at BetMGM's the best line on the board right now. I haven't bet a lot of earned run props myself either, but when you have one game and you're trying to find some bets on the board, sometimes some stuff that isn't normally popping up is going to be showing the best value. So this one, I wouldn't call this as strong of a play as I would on like a 15 game slate or something, maybe more of a lean here, but I do like this. Like you mentioned earlier, Collin, that this is a 5.5 total. The bet is pretty much in line with Vegas on this number. And so we're looking at, a really good run suppressing environment. It's a good pitcher's park, like 60-degree pitching weather. And like Sean mentioned, Kirby's going to be piggybacking with Luis Castillo here, probably not going to be going super deep. Obviously a really good pitcher, Kirby. The bat is actually projecting 20 batters faced for him, which, like Sean said, probably maybe too high. Like there is a good chance that he just comes out after he goes 2 times through the order. And so even with that projection, maybe even being a little high, we're still showing value here. The bat's projecting this to hit about 60% of the time. And so yeah, I think this one looks solid on a 1-game slate.
The other caveat too is the Mariners are the worst defensive team remaining in the playoffs. So there's a chance where Kirby gives up runs and they're not earned because they come off of an error with 2 outs. That's the one place that the The earned runs prop actually saves you relative to betting the over. You know, the over earns runs prop, you can lose it even with the guy giving up runs. You can win it with the guy giving up runs betting the under. So that's the other caveat I'd make there is Kirby, good command guy, you know, could give up a bomb, could give up a 2-run bomb like he did in game 1, but the Mariners could also fuck it up for him and just give up some unearned runs, and that could be a way it saves you. So yeah, I think 20 batters face is probably the upside for him, you know, as long as, again, they don't have like a big lead, and they're just letting him go. But yeah, I think 20 is probably about right. And you know, I think 18 is likely the minimum target, and 20 probably on the nose.
We've talked a lot about pitching here. Makes sense. Skubal and Kirby, a total of 5.5. I naturally am going to go back to the well with some hitter props here. Got a trio on both sides here, looking at hitter matchups against pitcher-specific pitches. It's really tough with Skubal. You know, his most used pitch is a changeup, throws it 31.4% of the time, allowing a 171 weighted on-base average and a 227 slugging on his changeup this year. There's only one hitter in the Mariners lineup who hits above his expectation against a changeup, and it's J.P. Crawford. And I want nothing to do with J.P. Crawford props as a lefty against the lefty in Skubal tonight. So looking at a couple of value plays here on the Mariners side. Again, we're getting kind of nice juice here because they're facing a pitcher who's quite frankly not going to give up a lot of hits or a lot of runs. Jorge Polanco, we saw him take Skubal deep last time out. Jorge Polanco has really good numbers against the changeup and the four-seamer. They're not quite like above what he would hit just in general, but he also crushes sinkers. We saw that against Skubal last time out. Sinker is probably Skubal's most hittable pitch. So like Polanco here, again, 2+ bases at plus 200. And for him to hit another home run here against Skubal's plus 720. We'll go back to Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh here, the two stars of Seattle here. Julio's actually projects the best against Skubal's arsenal of everyone in this lineup, outside of, again, the lefty and J.P. Crawford. Four-seamer and sinker both grade out really well, and he's not bad against the changeup, but again, just got to kind of try to throw out the changeup stats here against someone who throws as good of a one as Skubal. Might be the best pitch in baseball, but Rodriguez plus 167 for 2+ bases and plus 600 to go deep. And then Raleigh, same deal. Raleigh might be, you know, have some of the best numbers in all of baseball against the sinker this year. And for someone who hit 60 home runs during the regular season, not very often we get a homer prop on him at plus 320. On the Tigers side of things, gets a little bit more options here. Kerry Carpenter, I don't know, you know, we take hitter pitcher stats with such a grain of salt with small sample sizes. He's 5 of 12 lifetime against George Kirby, and all 5 hits are home runs. So if he gets a hold of one, like he's the most likely one in that Tigers lineup to do so. We're getting him at plus 400 to go deep today and plus 145 for 2+ bases. He also, so Kirby's repertoire there is four-seamer, slider, sinker, essentially. He throws a knuckle curve also about 12% of the time, but the sinker and the slider and four-seamer all between 26 and 29% of the time. Carpenter, Gleyber Torres, and Colt Keith, probably the top 3 hitters in the lineup. All crush four-seamers, all crush sinkers. The only guy in the lineup actually that looks above expectation against sliders is Riley Green. Staying away from his props today. He doesn't really look too good matchup-wise against George Kirby. But Carpenter, Torres, and Keith. Torres cashed for us last time out in Detroit on the home run prop. I think that was like plus 650. We're getting him plus 830 to hit a home run, again, in a more pitcher-friendly park. Plus 160 for total bases. And then in Colt Keith, been pretty quiet this series for the most part. Again, same matchup projections as Torres and Carpenter. Plus 240 for 2+ bases, which is our best odds on the bases, and then plus 800 to hit a home run. So I might look like a fool when this is a 1-0 game with a solo home run by Victor Robles or something. But those are the hitter props. Get a couple of those across the finish line, and we'll have a nice little Friday on the hitter side. We're going to talk a little bit about the futures, and we're going to talk a little bit about Game 5 between the Cubs and Brewers on Saturday. But before we do that, I want to get a same-game parlay out here for Tigers-Mariners. And I'm gonna solicit your guys' feedback on my hitter props. You guys are probably looking at my hitter props like, I'm not betting any hitter props today, but we're gonna throw Mariners money line. We're gonna throw Kirby under 1.5 earned runs in there, and then if you just do that, if you're a parlay better, but you wanna have the least risk possible there, if you want to just throw those two in a parlay, that's plus 154 at DraftKings. But Sean, I'll go to you first. I gave out 6 hitter props here. Which one, if any, stood out to you as the one you like the best or didn't like the least?
So I have to go with the Mariner here, considering I have the M's money line. I was torn between Julio and Polanco. Hart was initially saying Julio. Head was initially saying Polanco. They've both been pressing since homering in the series.
Yes.
Julio 1 for 16 with 6 strikeouts since he homered in game 1. Polanco had an infield single after homering twice against Skubal, and then he struck out in 5 of his 8 plate appearances. So it does seem like both guys are potentially pressing, but there's a phrase that you always need to keep in your heart. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. Julio Rodriguez is a big-time player on the verge of superstardom, especially if the Mariners can bring a title home to Seattle. Give me Julio over 1.5 bases in the game tonight. Drives in the go-ahead run with the double. Mariners advance to the ALCS.
Derek, are you with Sean here on Rodriguez, or is there someone else who stands out to you?
Polanco is actually the guy that stands out to me. I was looking through the Bad X's projections to see like who it agrees the most with here, and it sees the most value on the Polanco home run. So definitely gonna boost our odds on this parlay. But yeah, that's what I would go with.
Love it. That is extra juicy. All right, so our parlay today: Mariners money line, George Kirby under 1.5 outs, Julio 2+ total bases, Jorge Polanco to go deep off of Skubal again. 38-1 over at DraftKings. I'm feeling really good about this one. This is our fade.
Should be minus 400.
Huh?
Should be minus 400.
Should be minus 400. You're right. All right. Before we move on, don't forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Sean Zerillo, Derek Carty, and our entire Action Network team. Sean just talked about, betting these lines, betting Mariners plus 125 or whatever it was, right when that opens. It's plus 107 some books now. The only way you get those prices, you can tell these experts, is by signing up for Action Pro, getting those real-time pick alerts. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our entire predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off the annual price with the promo code PAYOFF20. So don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro. Use promo code PAYOFF20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. All right, let's get a little bit of futures talk here. We have the LDSs are ending on Saturday. The Cubs forced to Game 5 back in Milwaukee. We don't know who's starting those games. We can probably talk a little bit about that. I think we see some Jacob Mizorowski. Shota Imanaga will be on normal rest for the Cubs. Just want to get some early thoughts on that. And then the LCSs get started Sunday and Monday. We will be back Monday with another episode. But Sean, I want to go to you first for any thoughts, any early thoughts on Cubs Brewers Game 5, any projections there, and then just anything else you're looking at going forward as we start the LCSs this weekend before our next episode starts.
Yeah, I'm going to make that game right around a pick'em, minus 110 for the Brewers. So Cubs are already out to plus 115. If they got to plus 120, Chicago would be a bet for me. Even plus 118, I think, is fine compared to plus 110. So we'll continue to wait for that Cubs line to potentially float up. I'm anticipating Shota going for 4 1/3 innings, and then the Cubs bullpenning it behind him. Brewers probably pitching very much how they pitched in Game 2, except without Aaron Ashby likely starting. Maybe they start Mizorowski. Maybe they start Koenig, their other left-handed reliever. See how they approach that. Obviously, Robert Gasser. Sorry, go ahead.
Quintana's an option there too. He threw a couple days ago, but it was basically bullpen game option. I would expect
Gasser.
Quintana,
I think Gasser and
Mizorowski.
Quintana both gave up runs in their appearances, so I think they might be hesitant to go to those guys. I would imagine it might be Koenig, and then they have Quinn Priester available as well. I don't think they necessarily want to go back to him either. So, yeah, the pitching plan's a little bit curious, but I would lean towards the Cubs there. I also make the total about 7.3. I would love to have bet another under in this series because they've been so much fun to sweat. I've just had the time of my life sweating these unders every single game. No, realistically though, for a final game where you're going to get new pitchers as frequently as possible, I would have wanted to bet the under. It's just I'm right in line with the market, so no bets for me on Cubs Brewers. I will say though, I make the Dodgers about 70% either way against either of those teams. Whoever advances, I initially thought maybe I'm a little high here because the Dodgers are, as of this morning, I believe still minus 180 to win the NL pennant. That's too low. The Dodgers should be, again, I make them 70%, but I'm not alone in that. And I'm glad to have Derek here today because the bat compared to Oopsie, Fangraphs, ATC, the bat has been the highest on the Dodgers all the way through the playoffs. They currently have them at 73% to win the NL and odds on to win the World Series. So about minus 270 to win the NL and around 54%, 53.5%, minus 115, minus 117 to win the World Series. So with Derek here, I wanted to ask him where he thinks the extra optimism on the Dodgers has come from. And is there just like Dodgers fatigue out there? Is that why we've been able to get decent prices on the Dodgers all the way through, even though the least optimistic projection system would have said there was value on them and yours would have said there was substantial value on them? So I'm just curious what you think your model saw in the Dodgers relative to the other models that are still very high on them, and whether you have any futures on the Dodgers or any futures thoughts at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we're talking about having value on the Dodgers because when we started the year, I think most books had their line set at like 104.5 wins or something just absolutely insane. And I got so many questions from people. Oh, why does the bat only have the Dodgers projected for 98 wins this year? Like this is one of the best teams we've ever seen in the history of baseball. And then they go out and obviously they go under. But they're still this really, really good team. Like they weren't, 104 wins good because very few teams ever really can project that way. But this is still easily the best team in baseball. I think you're right that we have seen a little bit of Dodgers fatigue maybe playing into this a little bit as well. But it's really as simple as that. The team is really, really, really good. And the market just is not treating them as good as they should because I guess maybe the underperformance in the regular season, the fatigue, whatever it may be. But this is the best team in baseball by a good margin. Certainly the best team left in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think their best competition has already been eliminated. They did that directly with the Phillies, and then obviously the Yankees getting knocked out as well. So you can still get as high as, I believe, plus 130 on the Dodgers to win the World Series. Again, Derek's projection makes them minus 115. I would project them, this is my number, at about plus 115. So I'm like on the lower end. I mean, the lowest projection on them is around 44%. I'm around 47%. Again, Derek is around 54%. But even my projection of plus 114 says there's value at plus 130. And then I make them, again, minus 233 to win the NL. You can lay minus 180 right now. So I've given out the Dodgers 3 times already during the playoffs to win the NL. Gave them out twice to win the World Series. We have good numbers. I'm considering laying minus 180 before this game 5 between the Brewers and Cubs, because who's going to start game 1 for those teams? Don't the Dodgers have a significant advantage in game 1 as well? They would host the Cubs. They would have to travel to Milwaukee. But is Jose Quintana starting that game for the Brewers? Like who's pitching game 1 for Milwaukee? I think the Dodgers have substantial rotation depth advantages over either of these teams. And I think a 3-game series, especially if the Brewers have to go to LA and figure out who they're pitching in 3, 4, and 5 with Peralta likely going in game 2, I think that's a big problem for them. So yeah, Dodgers, whether they have to host the Cubs or go to Milwaukee, I think the matchups are super favorable in the starting pitching department. 7-game series against the Phillies might have gone badly for them, but a 7-game series against either of these teams, giving their starting pitching edge, I think they're fine. I really do. I don't think the Cubs have the bullpen depth to outmatch them. Maybe the Brewers could bullpen them in a 7-game series. I think that's unlikely. So yeah, Dodgers to me remain a futures value play. And the other comment I just want to make on the ALCS real quick, I will make as I knock my microphone out here because I'm so excited, I'll make the Jays around minus 113 against Seattle with home field. I would make the Jays around minus 170 against the Tigers. So I will be betting the Jays. I think currently the Jays are around minus 120. You give me minus 150 or better on the Jays against the Tigers, I'm betting that all day. The Tigers have Skubal, and that's essentially it against Toronto. The 2 games they have with Skubal against Toronto, games 3 and game 7, presumably, they're about a coin flip. Every other game, Toronto is going to be a pretty substantial favorite in that series. So Toronto over Detroit would definitely be a play for me at minus 150 or better. Should that pairing happen, I'm obviously hoping it doesn't based on the other bets I've given out on the show.
Trey Yesovich against Tarek Skubal start. I feel like we'd set an over-under on 22.5 combined starting pitcher strikeouts in that game. Dodgers NLCS, worth noting, they would be the road team against the Mariners. They would host the Cubs. They would have home field advantage if the Cubs advance. So, that's obviously where they're rooting for from that perspective as well. But yeah, the Dodgers, we've talked about it a couple times. We talked about it on our overall playoff preview pod with Anthony DeBundo about there's value on the Dodgers entering the playoffs for the first time ever. It's also probably a good thing we're not a recap podcast because we've somehow gone this whole episode without talking about Orion Kerkering. What a way for that to end. Derek, before we wrap up, just real quick, any early thoughts on Game 5 tomorrow between the Brewers and Cubs? Any early leans, any early bad X projections here, or you just got to kind of wait and see what the pitching plan looks like closer to first pitch?
I don't have any really early projections just yet. Okay. Neither pitcher's been announced yet. We don't even really have a great speculative choice for Milwaukee, so kind of just in wait and see mode right now.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. I think that the only guarantee I think we have from that game tomorrow is we're going to see a lot of Mizrowski, and I'm really excited to see how they use him and how he does after his performance earlier in the season.
Nerfy lock of the century.
Yes.
Count it. Lock it in.
Unless Imanaga's on the other side, I don't know. But yeah, so Game 5 tonight, Mariners Tigers. Very excited. We will be back with you on Monday. It will be Monday. We will have Game 2 of the ALCS and Game 1 of the NLCS. I feel like it'll be a whole different postseason landscape next time we talk to you all. That'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets from today's episode, look for the quick slip links in the episode description. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app, and please leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, check out our new AI quick slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook at Playbook. Tell it to grab whatever bet you're looking for. It'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. Again, we'll be back Monday, another episode of Payoff Pitch. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the game tomorrow. For Derek Carty and Sean Zerillo, I'm Collin Whitchurch. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Have a great weekend and good luck with all your bets.